Welcome to the last 3 webinars in the 4th R webinar series. This webinar will explore youth mental health and the importance of incorporating mindfulness at home or in the classroom in improving emotional well-being of children and youth. This webinar will be presented by Ryan Brohl, Shanna Burns, and Debbie Kyoto, researchers at the Center for Prevention Science, a unit with the Social and Epidemiological Research Department at the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, Canada's largest mental health and addiction teaching hospital. The goal of this 1-hour webinar is to gain a better understanding of youth mental health and what it means to be emotionally healthy. We will also look at what sort of factors may get in the way of good emotional health and what we can do to promote emotional wellness in youth. In particular, we will explore how mindfulness, an old age technique recently revitalized, is being used to help youth regulate their emotions and alleviate some of their anxieties and stress. By the end of this hour, our team will have provided you with a variety of tools and strategies that are simple yet effective to support and encourage positive well-being and mental health in youth. And now I will turn it over to Ryan, Shanna, and Debbie.
Thank you. I would like to begin today's webinar by reading a statement made by the Mental Health Commission of Canada that states, "Mental health is as important as physical health to a child's quality of life and impacts their learning, development, and success in school. There can be no health without mental health." In 2012, Health Canada created the Mental Health Commission of Canada that is responsible for the country's first national strategy on mental health for both children and adults. In action and in deeds, this strategy marks a significant milestone in the journey to bring mental health out of the shadows and to recognize that there really is no health without mental health. The World Health Organization recently stated by 2030, mental health issues will form the biggest burden on healthcare resources, including heart conditions and cancer. Now more than ever, mental health problems for youth are significant, affecting many aspects of their lives, including family and peer relationships and school performance. As adults in the lives of youth, we have an important role to play in ensuring that youth are supported and receive the help they need in order to reach their full potential.
Kids and teens are constantly changing. As youth grow, it's normal to change as they learn new things and their bodies and minds mature into their adult selves. So with all these changes going on, how can we tell which changes are normal? At what point should we start worrying that our child's fears or teenager's mood swings are more than just growing pains? It can be hard to tell. For some kids, these changes aren't just a part of growing up. They are symptoms of something more serious going on. The challenge many of us face who work with young people is that adolescence is a time of dramatic physical, emotional, intellectual, and social change. Young people often feel tremendous pressure to succeed at school, at home, and in social groups. Sometimes we mistake what we think might be just normal adolescent development for what really is mental health problems. Youth mental health, like adult mental health, is about how you think, feel, communicate, reflect, and act in situations in their life. For example, think about how a young person in your life handles stress or how you handle stress. If you think the same negative thoughts over and over again, you will create feelings of negativity. The more we keep thinking negative thoughts, the more we will create more negative feelings. In contrast, the more a youth focuses on positive thoughts over and over again, the more positive feelings they will create. Youth mental health is also about how they view themselves, their life, and the other people in their life. In other words, how they relate to others, their relationships, and their sense of who they are. Youth suffering from mental health concerns can make actions and choices that are healthy or unhealthy. For example, if a youth was feeling anxious or worried, he or she could go out for a smoke, drink, or stay in their room alone, all unhealthy behaviors. Or he or she could choose to talk about their thoughts or their feelings with a friend or someone who can help them. These are examples of healthy behaviors. Finally, it is important to understand that mental health is linked very closely to what we call self-regulation, the ability of youth to monitor and modify their emotions so that they can say to themselves, "Hey, why am I feeling this way? What's going on? And maybe I should talk to someone about this." As well as their ability to empathize and sustain attention and respond efficiently and effectively to the everyday challenges they face in and out of school. As you can see, youth mental health, like adult mental health, is made up of multiple cognitive, emotional, and social dimensions. Impairments in any one or more of these domains could signal the need for support and help to the youth and his or her family.
The information we will share with you tonight is for those of you with children and youth in your life who may have already been diagnosed with a mental health disorder. But the information tonight is also for many of you who know youth that have significant emotional concerns in a variety of domains such as sadness, stress, and feelings of worry. As you can see here on the screen, youth suffering from a mental health problem will experience feelings of stress, anxiety, worry, sadness, isolation, and they may not always understand what's going on with them. The four most common mental health disorders and problems we see in young people are anxiety, attention deficit hyperactivity, conduct disorder, and depression. Anxiety disorders are the most common disorders affecting children and youth, affecting more than 6% of youth at any time. Anxiety disorders can cause kids to be extremely afraid or worried about things or situations that other kids are usually not afraid of. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder affects about 5% of children at any given time, and youth diagnosed with this condition find it very difficult to focus their attention. These youth are also more impulsive and harder to settle down than other youth. The most recent research suggests that about 5% of children and youth are diagnosed with depression, a disorder that shows up most often during teenage years. And finally, conduct disorder is a disorder that affects about 4% of children. It leads children to be extremely aggressive and destructive towards other people, pets, or property. Youth with conduct disorder may also seem like they don't care about important but basic rules, such as doing things like regularly skipping school or running away from home.
The latest prevalence rate for child and youth mental health are significant. 1 in 5 youth living in Ontario under the age of 19 has a mental health disorder. This is the current stat around mental health issues. If you work with young people, then it is important to note that in every group or class that you have contact with, there is likely someone there who has experienced a mental health issue or is struggling right now or will experience one in the future. At the very least, everyone likely knows someone who will struggle at some point with their mental health. It is something that affects almost everyone directly or indirectly. Of these 1 in 5 youth who have a mental health disorder, almost none of them will receive the mental health services they need. What is even more concerning is that Ontario's current children's mental health system has the capacity to serve fewer than 1 in 3 of these youth, so we know that even if youth were to treat and access support services, the system does not have the capacity to serve them. For those of us who work in the field, children and youth mental health has long been considered the forgotten sister of provincial and federal funding for services, and although this landscape is changing, we are still not at the point where we can effectively serve all the youth who need help. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among 10 to 24-year-olds, only second to car accidents, and Canada has the third worst suicide rate in the world for youth ages 15 to 19 years. What we know from the adult mental health research literature is that more than 50% of all adults who have a mental health problem had these problems begin when they were young teenagers, by the time that they were 14 years of age. And because they are adults with mental health problems, they likely were never treated or supported at that time. This speaks to the importance of early prevention and intervention efforts at school, home, and in the community. It should come as no surprise to you that children whose mental health problems are untreated disrupt classes, they bully other students, they are absent from school, they abuse drugs and alcohol, they engage in vandalism, and they do not succeed academically or socially.
If we are going to understand how to support youth who have mental health problems and concerns, it's important to have a good grasp of what overall emotional wellness might look like. Mental health is more than just the absence of mental illness. It's about resilience and wellness, which are both very much connected. If our goal is to improve and support resiliency in youth, it is important for you to know what resiliency really looks like and how to connect it to mental health. We also need to know how we can promote resiliency in young people. Youth who feel supported in some way in their relationships, youth who know how to effectively manage stress or hardship without resorting to unhealthy measures, youth who have a good perspective or positive self-image, and youth who feel connected in some way or feel like help is accessible to them, should they need it, are all examples of resiliency factors. Good emotional health doesn't necessarily mean youth will never go through bad times or experience emotional problems. We all go through disappointments, loss, and change. And while these are normal parts of life, they can still cause sadness, anxiety, and stress. The difference is that youth with good emotional health have an ability to bounce back from adversity, trauma, and stress. This is resiliency. People who are emotionally and mentally healthy have tools for coping with difficult situations and maintaining a positive outlook. They remain focused, flexible, and creative in bad times as well as good. As you look at this picture, what else might you add to the list of factors that lead to overall wellness? Maybe you are thinking things related to physical health, like exercise and diet, or trying to stay positive and flexible when dealing with life's inevitable changes. As you can see, there are many examples of resiliency factors that promote emotional wellness, and knowing what they are and how we can promote them in youth is critical because good emotional health matters.
Why does good emotional health matter? It matters because mental health problems lead to new problems with friends, family, law enforcement, or school officials. A person's mental health can affect how they interact with the most important people in their life: parents, peers, partners, teachers, and coworkers, and in turn, it affects how these people interact with them. It should come as no surprise that youth with a mental health problem have significant impairments in their learning, because most of the time they have trouble being attentive or concentrating in class, their ability to communicate is impaired, their behavior can be problematic, they are absent from school, and they have a difficult time completing tasks and assignments. And it also increases the likelihood that they will engage in risky behaviors, such as experimenting with drugs or alcohol, risky sexual behavior, being hostile or aggressive, or taking risks.
There are many factors that can get in the way of a young person's overall mental health. A risk factor is anything that increases the probability that a young person may experience or suffer harm. Experience unhealthy or violent relationships like bullying or dating violence may affect a person's emotional state and even trigger a mental health issue. Lacking the skills to cope with stress may lead youth to abuse substances or self-harm. Poor self-esteem has a profound effect on a young person's mental health. Youth that feel disconnected or don't feel like they belong to anyone or feel marginalized can also be at a higher risk for mental health issues. They can also be at risk for harming themselves or others. These are all what we call individual risk factors. Can you think of anything else that might affect a young person's emotional well-being?
As you are thinking about what other factors may get in the way of good emotional health for young people, it is equally important to recognize that individual risk factors, like poor self-esteem, unhealthy or violent relationships, play out against a backdrop of larger environmental and contextual factors like poverty, intergenerational trauma, racism or discrimination, or a lack of opportunities for youth. Even if a person is resilient, or someone who seems to have all the skills and strategies to be in a good place mentally, they can experience a mental health issue because there are sometimes broader risk factors at play. Mental health issues are complex, as are the causes or triggers that contribute to them. This means that mental health issues cannot be blamed on only one thing, nor can they be blamed on a person's strength or character or abilities. You don't need to be an expert on mental health issues to help someone or work with youth who might be at risk in some way. Just understanding that these concerns and issues are complicated, that it's no one's fault, and that there are supports that can help youth with treatment is a step in the right direction when approaching this subject with young people.
If mental illnesses are treatable, then why wouldn't someone just go and get help? There's a variety of factors that might explain why so many people, in particular youth, avoid seeking help. Stigma has been described by many as being one of the reasons. Adolescence is a time of enormous pressure to fit in and be accepted. Being labeled as having a mental health issue is a terrifying prospect for many young people. The stigma of mental illness is unfortunately very real. Some misconceptions around mental illness, like that people with mental health issues just aren't trying hard enough to snap out of it, or that it is somehow a sign of a weakness, are examples of why someone may be reluctant to admit that they are struggling. Other fears, like being labeled as crazy or the fear of being locked up in a hospital, could be more than enough reason for a young person to avoid seeking help. Mental health issues also present the problem of clouding thinking or judgment. One unfortunate side effect of some mental health issues or illness is lack of insight. The thought process of, there's something wrong and I think I need to seek help, may be clouded by thoughts of anxiety, worthlessness, and distorted thinking. Some young people may not even realize that what's happening to them isn't typical. Even caring adults might write off a young person's behavior as just being attributed to normal teenage growing pains or angst. The lack of knowledge of where or how to seek help may also explain some people's lack of help-seeking behavior. If they don't know that they can, for instance, talk to their family doctor or speak to a counselor at school about what's going on, then they won't do it.
In this short video clip we will show you next, you will hear from young adults who have had a personal experience with mental health and their words of encouragement to other young people to seek help for their concerns. Remember, young people are not always aware or able to access the support they need for their problems. Even within a school setting, we hear from many youth that they don't always know who they can go to talk to about what is going on with them, and many of them are hesitant to access formal supports, like a guidance counselor or a teacher. It is important we encourage and educate them on how to access the help they need and when they need it.
What do you want to be when you're older?
Hold on, it's like a deep question.
When I'm older, I want to be a singer. Ha 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 ha. That's my goal.
I'm not sure I want to invent the supercomputer, but I definitely want to build the supercomputer.
I want to be an inspiration.
An organizer of like do-gooders.
I want to be a veterinarian. I want to help out animals and work with them.
A media mogul. Just rule the world.
When I'm older, I want to be anything but the one that doesn't fit in, the one that people don't love.
Everyone deserves a dream.
Everyone.
But some of us feel depressed, anxious, angry, and do things that others think aren't normal.
We can't even focus on the present, much less the future.
If that's you, say something.
It's okay to talk. It's okay to share. It's okay to get help or help someone.
Talk to someone. It helps. And people will listen. Add your voice at okaytotalk.org.
Although a teacher, a parent, a doctor, or a school counselor are all important adults that youth can turn to when they are experiencing problems, we cannot underestimate the power of friends. 8 out of 10 young people who attempt suicide mention their plans to someone before the attempt, and usually this person is a friend. Young people armed with the right information can be in a great position to help themselves or a friend in trouble. Young people can have a powerful influence for good, and they can change the lives of their friends. Many young people, especially those who feel disconnected to their family, turn to friends in times of need. When struggling, young people often turn to their friends first. This doesn't need to be a bad thing. Young people, now more than ever, can access information and tools to help themselves and their peers navigate the systems in their lives. Armed with the right information and the tools they need to access when they need help, they can be a force for change and resiliency. If we can give them a few of these tools, then they can move forward feeling a bit more confident about their own well-being and the well-being of their friends. Although youth can be in a great position to help their friends who may have a mental health concern, it is important to recognize that peers are greatly impacted by the well-being of their friends, and they will also need to be supported in this process.
As caring adults in the lives of young people, there are many ways we can support youth and their peers dealing with the stressors of mental health issues that they're facing. Now more than ever, we're seeing more and more mental health issues in our classrooms, schools, and communities at younger and younger ages. Before we share with you an innovative and new approach to improving the well-being and health of youth, what's being called mindfulness, there are a few other important ways to support and help youth who are dealing with mental health issues that we can do rather easily, whether at home or at school or in other settings. If you're a parent, an educator, or some other professional listening tonight, youth mental health is everyone's business, and what we are about to discuss next are things we can consider practicing and promoting. Despite the education and awareness campaigns around mental health, there continues to be stigma, fear, and apprehension to address and discuss the mental health challenges that youth are facing. It is important that we create a safe and accepting environment, whether at home or at school, to discuss these issues. Moreover, it's our responsibility to promote positive mental health. This means, as adults, we need to first educate ourselves about the well-being of youth and the ways we can support them in their journey to reach their full potential.
As we have mentioned before, peers and relationships can have a profound impact on the stress level of youth and how they view themselves. If we help youth develop good, healthy relationships that are supportive and respectful, and if youth feel connected and understood by caring peers and adults in their lives, this will reduce their stress, improve their self-esteem, engage them appropriately, and reduce triggers that could lead to mental health issues. Mental health issues also impact how we function in relationships, our ability to be a good friend, sibling, or child. We need to help youth understand why they are feeling and behaving the way they are and how it might impact the people in their lives. Teens also need to understand that there is help out there that they can access, either for themselves or on a friend's behalf. Some youth will not know that they can call a crisis line for a friend, even if they aren't in immediate risk, and we need to give them the number and let them know they can do this. Some youth do not know that it's okay to go to the emergency room when they are in a crisis, or speak to their family doctor when they are struggling. This can be new and powerful information for a young person. As a parent, this may frighten you because you may want your child to come and speak with you first. But unfortunately, no matter how strong your relationship is with your child, you may not be the first one they approach when they have a problem. It is usually their friends. Many youth want to feel like they are a good friend to their peers, and approaching the topic of mental health from the angle that they can use the information to help their friends is a good way to start a conversation. Young people might also be comforted to know that they don't need to solve their friends' problems in order to help them. Sometimes just listening can be the best way to help.
Despite the importance of helping youth understand the role that they can play in seeking help for themselves or a friend, we need to make sure that we tell them that they are not entirely responsible for helping a friend in trouble. Have youth that you know identify who are the helpful adults and supports in their life, and who they might turn to for help when needed. It is important to let youth understand that some situations are beyond their control and level of expertise, and it will be necessary in some cases to access help. If someone is talking about suicide or self-harm, young people should know that they need to seek help, even if their friend has sworn them to secrecy. Again, arming them with the knowledge that crisis lines exist and helping them to think now about who are the helpful adults in their lives before they are in crisis can help them move forward feeling more confident in their ability to deal with a crisis. As a comparison, I will ask you to think about how we keep young children safe from strangers. We may use a strategy at home, for example, by telling our child over and over again who are the 3 people who they are allowed to go in a car with, let's say mom, dad, or grandpa. Or perhaps which adults in their life can pick them up after school. In this example, we have armed youth with information about who they can trust and who they can go home with. Teaching youth who are the helpful adults in their lives now when it comes to a mental health issue is really no difference. Tell them often, make sure they understand how that adult will help them, and most importantly, make sure you or that adult acts on that information that the youth shares with you. Many of you have signed up for this webinar because you've heard a lot about mindfulness and how it can be a powerful way to promote and improve health and well-being. This is very true, and we are excited to be able to share with you what mindfulness is and how mindfulness-based techniques and strategies can be utilized by almost anyone in efforts to improve the well-being of young people.
Have you ever arrived at work and realized that you don't remember driving there? Have you ever finished eating a meal and not actually really remember enjoying each bite, the flavors of the food? Have you ever been so focused on the TV, computer, your family, or some other distraction that you can barely remember what you ate? Many of us live our lives on automatic pilot. We go through the motions of our daily routines, we worry about the future, or we spend time going over yesterday's argument with a friend. Many of us do not live in the present. We don't pay attention to what is happening in our lives now at this very moment. If we stop and think about it, this moment is actually all that we have. And that is what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is about being aware of living right now in this moment. How many of you are multitasking as you listen to this webinar? Checking your phone, emailing, reading, surfing online? Probably many of you are. We are so programmed to do more than one thing at a time that just being in the present moment is almost impossible to imagine doing. But research has shown that being mindful is good for us. It's about directing our attention to the experience as it unfolds. Rather than worrying about what has happened or might happen, it trains us to respond skillfully to what is happening right now, good or bad. It's really hard to be anxious if you are completely focused on the present moment. What are you sensing and doing right now, and now, and now? But what happens when we are experiencing anxiety or feel anxious? We usually get stuck in our heads and we think about everything that could go wrong. An anxious brain likes to think about all the what ifs or all the bad things that could happen, the worst case scenarios. Training youth and yourself to be more mindful is such an important skill because it's paying attention on purpose in the moment in a non-judgmental way. The powerful thing about using mindfulness with youth is that by their very nature, young people often pay more attention to the present moment than adults do. Think back to when you were around a young toddler who would focus on a toy or game intently, and they seem to enjoy taking time to really experience things like the feel of sand in their fingers or the sound of a familiar voice telling their favorite story. Or think back to when youth start eating with solid foods. They touch it, they squish it, they smell it, they put it in their mouth, and they spit it out. This is paying a lot of attention in the present moment, and most young children do it very well. However, as children get older, they live in a world of being told what to do, what time to go to school, to hurry up with an activity. This begins to create in children the autopilot way of living that we as adults are so familiar with. They become less aware of what they are doing right now. Although we will talk about this later with the benefits of mindfulness, I want to raise the point here that the popularity related to mindfulness is that in many cases it has been shown to help develop the social and emotional competencies in young people that is so critical to their overall well-being and mental health. The skills related to self-awareness, empathy, relationships, responsible decision-making, and self-management can all be improved by incorporating mindfulness into their daily lives.
Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds like some crazy relaxation technique that will require you or your child to go into a trance and blank out their mind. And I know you're thinking there is no way that my child or the many youth that you work with will ever agree to do anything that requires focused attention on the present. Although mindfulness is based on an Eastern meditation tradition, it is not the same as meditation. You can meditate to become more mindful, but it is only one way to become more mindful. And mindfulness is not about trying to achieve a higher level of consciousness, which some meditative practices aim to achieve. Mindfulness is often confused with relaxation. Although you may become more relaxed when you're mindful, this is not the goal of mindfulness. The goal is to be aware of and accept whatever way your body and mind feel at this moment in time. Our minds are often very busy and full of our thoughts, many of which are about the past and the future. The goal of mindfulness is to be aware that we have thoughts, but to let them go so we can focus on the present without distraction. It is also about taking time to be aware of all the good things in your life, all the good things surrounding you right now, like your family, friends, home, the food you have to eat, or your pet. This doesn't mean you can't have goals or want your life to be better, but if you spend too much time thinking about what you don't have yet or feeling that you're not the person that you want to be, this can make you feel unhappy and stressed. I know you all know this information on some level, but the truth is we are not very good at doing this, at least not consistently, especially young people who have so much pressure and stress in their life relating to not being good enough, smart enough, thin enough, popular enough, athletic enough, making it very easy to focus on anything but the present moment. So by now, you must be getting a better sense of why this approach has been shown to improve health and well-being.
Being in the present moment can help us all better cope with our lives and feel happier. This is because mindfulness is about respecting and not judging ourselves. It's about just accepting ourselves for who we are. It is very simple, but can be a very powerful way of keeping us in touch with what really is important in our lives. It is about helping us not to get bogged down by past mistakes. If now is okay, we are okay. Current research is telling us that mindfulness training can reduce stress and anxiety, improve self-confidence, relationships with others, attention, optimism, and self-esteem, all important protective factors in improving health and well-being. In terms of mental health concerns, it's also been shown to be an effective intervention for youth who are suffering from anxiety, depression, or conduct disorders. Studies have shown that youth who participate in mindfulness-based education programs have enhanced cognitive and academic performance. They are much better at managing academic stress, and they have an improved ability to focus their attention to different stimuli. These programs have also been shown to increase their socially competent behaviors, like empathy, relationship skills, and self-awareness. Overall, we see enhanced learning in the classroom when students are participating in mindfulness-based programs and approaches. More recently, research has looked at brain imaging studies and have shown that mindfulness practice reliably and profoundly alters the structure and function of the brain to improve the quality of thought, feeling, and concern for others. This is by far the most powerful research to date that we've seen on using mindfulness practice to improve our thinking, how we feel about ourselves and others. Mindfulness is now recommended by the National Institute of Clinical Excellence to help reduce stress, and more GPs are starting to refer youth and adults to courses that can help with their anxiety and their depression. We have also seen its usage increase in business to improve staff well-being and satisfaction, in sports training to improve performance, and of course in schools to enhance well-being and learning. It is also important to emphasize that what we are discussing here with mindfulness is one approach to improving mental health and well-being that may or may not work for all youth in all situations, just like any other intervention for that matter. What is important is that it is one tool in the toolbox of supporting and promoting positive well-being and mental health for young people.
Now, you may not be convinced about using mindfulness if you just hear it from us, but let's look at a video where youth and young adults discuss their experiences using mindfulness. You will hear them talk about how mindfulness has benefited different parts of their lives. The video also has examples of youth practicing some exercises related to mindfulness and insights from a health professional and mindfulness teacher.
Before I tried mindfulness, I felt threatened all the time.
Really disillusioned with life.
Confused.
Tired. Stressed. Frustrated.
Scattered all over the place.
Overwhelmed. Anxiety over the future. Worried. It was kind of taking over my life.
I tried mindfulness because I felt stressed out. I was very concerned with the future and what my day was going to look like tomorrow and everything that was happening.
My life was always about what happened in the past and what's going to happen in the future. So by doing mindfulness, I live much more in the now. It is just a different approach to life.
We all experience difficult challenges in our life, like stress, pain, and depression. Mindfulness can give us resilience to rise above those challenges and live life more fully. Mindfulness is a particular type of meditation where we bring our awareness to the present moment. We can let go of the past, let go of the future, live life more fully, more joyfully.
We all are too busy. I think it's a thing that everybody's just so busy all the time right now.
You always have something that you have to do, or you're always going towards a certain goal, and mindfulness is just taking a moment to look at your life without any expectations.
Take time for yourself rather than getting carried off in all the daily activities that you have.
Mindfulness can be practiced by anyone, no matter what your religion, your age, or your background. We don't have to wait until we have time to do like a formal sitting meditation to practice mindfulness. We can bring that same mindful awareness to any activity that we're doing through our daily lives. So walking can be a meditation, eating our lunch, brushing our teeth, being creative, painting, writing, or playing music can get us deeply in touch with the present moment. Mindfulness is available anytime, anywhere.
It's a tool and skill that you can use for the rest of your life, and it's easy through simple daily or not daily exercises.
I mean, it just keeps us all just calm and present, and I think that that's healthy for anybody.
It can be beneficial for everyone, and you just have to go in with an open mind and take everything slowly instead of trying to get through life quickly and do as much as I can and as fast as I can do it. Instead, just enjoy everything you do and maybe look at life from a more positive perspective.
So I really invite you all to try it, to experience it, and to see for yourself how mindfulness might be able to affect and transform your own life.
This video is powerful because hearing from young adults that it is easy to incorporate some daily mindfulness exercises into our lives that will make us feel better, reduce our stress, focus on the present instead of worrying about the past or the future. And this is a life skill that we all could benefit from. This is not to say that the past or the future is not important to think about or plan for or worry about, because it is. But it's the constant worrying about things outside of the present moment that people who practice mindfulness say impacts our well-being over time.
By this point, I'm sure you are anxious to hear about how you can use mindfulness to improve your well-being and those of young people in your life. And no, you don't necessarily have to take workshops, find a therapist, or attend classes to use mindfulness, although certainly these are excellent ways to formally learn and master the skill. What I think is most relevant to all of you tonight are to be exposed to some techniques and strategies that are somewhere between formal and informal ways of mindfulness that with some practice and comfort, you can do these at home, in the classroom, or part of a program you may be implementing with youth. Even without the time or place in our life to do more formal mindfulness training, from the minute that you or your child gets up in the day to the moment they lay their head on your pillow, there is an important opportunity to engage mindfulness as a way of life, opening you and your child up to greater focus, calmness, and peace.
We thought that introducing you first to a very simple, easy way to weave mindfulness into your child or classroom daily schedule is to pick a time before work or class, during lunch, after lunch, at bedtime, to create a space and a few minutes to come down from the worried mind and back to the present moment by using the stop technique. This has been shown to be enormously helpful to youth and adults when things are feeling stressed and or worried. The first step is to stop what you're doing, put things down for a minute, then take a breath, breathe normally and naturally, then observe your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. What's on your mind? Thoughts are not facts and they're not permanent. If a thought arises that you are inadequate, for example, notice it, let it be, and move on. Name the emotion that you're feeling. This can have a calming effect. And finally, proceed with something that will support you in the moment. Talk to a friend, smile, or move around. As you can see, this is a very simple exercise that when practiced daily or every other day, or whenever you can, will help your mind and your child's mind learn how to calm, settle down, focus on the present moment, and move ahead.
The next technique that can be used with youth is called Just Be. This technique requires youth to be as they are for a few moments each day. Sit quietly and do nothing. Observe how they feel, how they breathe, keeping their mind clear, being aware of thoughts but pushing them aside for the time being. This exercise can help youth be aware of only the present, and it can have an effect of calming the mind and anxiety in the body. Youth can be encouraged to use this focus on breathing and just being in their daily life when they are feeling worried or angry or before starting homework or going to sleep. Now I know what you are thinking, because when I was learning this technique, I was thinking it too at first. How is it possible to get youth to sit still, whether at home or in a classroom setting, and just calm their mind and breathing? And maybe you are thinking this might actually cause more anxiety for some kids than it would benefit them. This is all very true, but maybe just at first. It may take some time before youth will feel comfortable with stillness and quiet and focused concentration. Be prepared for some frustration, giggles, and comments that it all seems very strange. This is a normal response at first, because it is so strange for them, because we never just be. But it takes practice, and the practice is worth it. When this is first introduced to youth or children, and this is being used on children as young as 5, it is recommended you should only do it for 1 or 2 minutes. But then you can work your way up to a child sitting quietly for a number of minutes that match their age. So a 5-year-old could be expected to sit for 5 minutes, a 10-year-old for 10 minutes, and so on. In one research study where this technique was used in a classroom setting, children's responses to mindfulness exercises went from seeming weird and strange to them in the beginning to being an important part of their day and something that many of them loved and enjoyed sharing with their parents and siblings.
The one area where you may have heard the most about the use of mindfulness is with respect to diet and eating. The art of mindful eating encourages us to slow down while we eat, avoid any multitasking at mealtimes, eat only at the table, and appreciate the appearance and texture of food. Mindful eating also requires us to focus on each mouthful by purposefully chewing. When was the last time you ate at a table with no distractions other than the food in front of you? Or how often do you eat slowly, savoring each bite and the texture of food while you're eating? With our busy lifestyles, it's likely not often, but it's something we should try to do more often. And why? Because it's been shown to significantly reduce weight and overeating, improve digestion and overall enjoyment of food. But more importantly, it's another tool in our toolbox to help us become more aware of the present moment, and it's designed to help you or your child practice being more mindful in order to gain a greater awareness of their internal reactions. And what practitioners have done is taken the principles of mindful eating to exercises with children and youth to make them actually more aware of an object in their environment and their own experience of that object. This exercise I will describe is called Raisin Awareness, and it can actually be done with a variety of foods like a Fig Newton or a Hershey Kiss, with youth of all ages. I've seen it done with kids as young as 4 to 18 years old and adults. When you describe it like I will in a few seconds, it does not have the same effect as it does when you actually experience it. Go run and get a raisin if you can. This exercise can be done with an individual child or with a group or class. You can practice this at home with your child daily a few times a week or whenever you can fit it in. The more you can incorporate daily mindfulness activities into your family, your classroom, or a program you may be delivering, the increased likelihood that these activities can start to feel more natural and seamless and something that everyone looks forward to. And remember that all these exercises we've described so far are intended to help youth focus their awareness and attention, slow themselves down, and be still and quiet for a given period of time. Moreover, these exercises will help youth learn how to calm their mind, their feelings, their body, in the hopes that in times of stress, anxiety, or worry, they can use these same techniques to better cope with whatever stressor they may be facing. And that is why mindfulness can work. And I will say that again, that in times of stress, if youth have in their toolbox ways to calm their mind, their bodies, and their emotional reaction to something in their environment, then we have given them a powerful tool to handle stressors, which will ultimately improve their well-being. So how does this exercise actually work? With the raisin awareness exercise, you would give each child 2 raisins. Ask them to look at the raisins carefully, as if they've never seen one before. Ask them to pick up one raisin and feel it between their fingers and notice its colors. Ask them to be aware of any thoughts they may have about the raisin. Ask them to be aware if they are thinking about liking or not liking raisins. Ask them to lift the raisin to their nose and smell it for a while. Then ask them to bring it to their lips. Ask them if they notice that their mouth is salivating to getting ready to eat it. Then ask them to put the raisin into their mouth and chew it slowly to experience the actual taste of the raisin. Ask them to hold it in their mouth. Tell them when they feel ready to swallow, to feel their throat getting ready to swallow. Then when they are ready, ask them to pick up the second raisin and do this all over again, as if now this is the first time that they've ever seen a raisin. Now I know at first this may sound silly and it may be hard to believe how this could ever help your child or someone you know who has a mental health concern. But I think it's important to recognize that mindfulness is not a cure, and it is only one strategy that can be used to help youth cope with stressors, anxiety, and even disruptive behavior. It helps youth bring their attention to the present moment, which can calm and focus them on everything that is okay instead of everything that isn't. And when mindfulness is used with other effective approaches to cope and deal with mental health, that may deliver some of the most effective results yet.
The final activity we would like to share with you is called Just Be. This exercise brings the attention to the child or youth's own body as children interact with the environment. This exercise can be done easily with a group of children together or even one child. However, if you're going to do it with a group of children, it is important that it is done in a room large enough for children to move around without being obstructed by many objects or being too crowded, so that they may remain focused on their own experience. Children may also enjoy doing this with music playing in the background. Tell the children to move around the room as softly as they can, as if walking on eggshells or on a delicate glass floor. Tell them to be aware of each movement they make. Feeling the thigh muscle lift the leg and move to the next position. Feeling the foot come off the floor and setting it back down. Feeling their hands and arms in space. They might move faster or slower at times. They might focus on their left leg for a few steps, then focus on their right leg. Tell them if their thoughts begin to wander from their body and their experience moving, they should note what they were thinking about, then return their attention back to that part of their body. Again, this is another exercise you could do at home or at school rather easily that has the potential to train youth to become more aware of their body and their mind.
So now we get to the point where you might be wondering, where do I start with all of this information? Or how do I try to incorporate the practice or the activities of mindfulness into my life and my child's life? And how much do I have to do? These are not easy questions to answer. What we do know is that doing some mindfulness activities is better than doing none. And that, like all good things for us, the more we do it, the more our mind and our body craves to do it. And in fact, in many studies where they have interviewed youth who have learned to make mindfulness a daily practice, say exactly that their day is not complete unless they do an activity or two related to mindfulness, and that overall, they feel much better when they can. So as we bring this webinar to an end, we would like to leave you with a few take-home messages. The first message is that youth mental health is a serious concern for our families, our schools, and our communities. We recognize the impact it has on families, on peers, and teachers in the classroom, and within our broader communities. Finding support, resources, and help is the first step you need to do if mental health issues are a problem in your family or at your school. The second message is that we know that promoting resiliency in youth is critical to well-being, and understanding the protective and risk factors that impact mental health is the first step in addressing the serious mental health concerns we are seeing in our classrooms and in our communities. Finally, the first thing that practitioners or educators who have used mindfulness with youth or adults say is that no matter how much you talk about it or read about it or study it, putting it into practice isn't always easy, especially for young people, but the benefits are worth it. It is not going to work at first, and likely will be met with frustration and boredom and probably a lot of laughter. But over time, if you are committed to it, it can make a difference.
We have listed here just a few resources for you to start your journey into mindfulness and understanding youth mental health, and on how to use some of the strategies and exercises we have talked about tonight to improve well-being. The Mind Power for Children, which is the guide for parents and teachers, is a highly recommended book to help parents and teachers implement easy and what they call life-altering techniques to teach children valuable life skills related to empathy, awareness, attention, and social and emotional competency. The Mind Up is a school-based curriculum heavily used in British Columbia, but we are seeing it in a lot more Ontario schools in the K-8 curriculum. It is likely the most thoroughly researched mindfulness program available. In this program, students learn to self-regulate their behavior and mindfully engage in focused concentration required for academic success. Mind Up lessons align with education standards and support improved academic performance while enhancing perspective taking, empathy, and kindness, as well as fostering complex problem-solving skills. The founder of Mind Up, the actress Goldie Hawn, has collaborated with neuroscientists, cognitive psychologists, and educators to make this program innovative and one of the best there is in the area of mindfulness awareness training. The Mindfulness Education Program is a program for students from K to 7 used nationally in Canadian schools, but also in the United States. It is a classroom-based program for all children designed to help youth develop positive emotions, self-regulation, and goal setting. It is 10 lessons and it is taught by teachers. Significant evaluation has supported the use of this program in improving social competency in youth by using mindfulness techniques. The Mindfulness in School project originated in the UK, but has also been used throughout Canada. It is a 9-lesson curriculum-based program for teachers. It was developed by teachers and is taught by them in the classroom and has been evaluated to show that students who use it feel happier, calmer, and they concentrate better. It has also been shown to help them cope with stress and anxiety and perform better in music and sports. And finally, we have our program, the fourth R listed here. Although not a mindfulness program per se, we have recently revised a few of our programs to incorporate more mindfulness activities and strategies for students. The fourth R is implemented in thousands of schools across Canada and has also been rigorously evaluated. You will see on the screen that we have also listed our website here and the fourth R Community of Practice. A community of practice is a place that people can go to read more about a topic, engage in a conversation about a topic, or post resources and other useful information. We encourage you to visit the site and review the community of practice when you can. So these are just a few resources to get you started. We hope you find them helpful and informative.
This brings us to the end of our 3 webinars in the 4th R webinar series. Thanks to Ryan, Shanna, and Debbie. We hope you have found this webinar informative and useful. We encourage everyone to visit our community of practice and continue the conversation about these topics. To start, please share with us any tips and resources that you and your family use to help promote positive mental health and well-being. Please feel free to contact us at our email listed on the screen and visit our website for more information. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.